Hello and welcome to Coffee with Greymass. I am Tony Licavulli and I'll be your host today. This week we are joined by the Antelope community's favorite developer, Aaron Cox.
Why, hello there.
And today we're going to be talking about Unicove. So I could go into a little bit about what Unicove is here, but I think Aaron will do a much better job of doing that. So Aaron, what exactly is Unicove?
It is a magical place with unicorns.
Yay!
It is a web wallet at its core, like just as a technical term. It is not a place that stores keys, but it is a user interface to let you manage, tokens and resources and other things that are kind of native to an Antelope-based blockchain. Think of it as like things you'd expect in like a full desktop wallet or something like that, where you can send and receive tokens. You could buy network resources, which hopefully you won't have to do because we have, systems that make that kind of thing easier, as well as participate in other, official systems to the network.
So considering that Anchor does some of the, or at least Anchor Desktop does some of these features already, what led you to want to create Unicove?
There's a lot of reasons. On the Greymass side, at that point in time, our team was about half the size it is today. And we had desktop, iOS, and Anchor, and Android versions of Anchor. And those, if we wanted to add a new feature, let's say, I don't know, sending some other kind of token or Power Up was introduced. We would have had to have gone and implemented that on 3 different applications. And that's a lot of effort. So in order to get to the point where we only had to update it in one thing, we made the decision that we were going to move that outside of Anchor, focus Anchor to be purely an authenticator, and then kind of dog food our what we were encouraging other developers to do, which is, hey, integrate Anchor into your application so that way your users can benefit from the security of Anchor. So we decided to kind of just drop Anchor down to the authenticator level feature. You are approving things in it. You're not actually doing things in it. And move all of that out to this web application. It was originally kind of the Greymass web wallet. We thought about calling it Anchor, but we ran with Unicove as kind of the branding and published it as its own independent thing that'll someday be usable with other wallets besides Anchor. We want it to be kind of that wallet interface you'd see in a Block Explorer or you'd see in a full-fledged web wallet, except with the benefits of being able to use an external key storage device, So.
Yeah. It's I use it quite a bit, especially, and, I recommend people there and point people there all the time for support cases. And it is a super handy tool, especially with being able to grab resources now. It has a great potential for something further down the road. So you mentioned the branding. What was the general meaning behind that? What were we kind of going for as far as why the site's kind of laid out the way it is, or the branding that we ended up going with?
Well, when we did Anchor for a couple of years before this, and we were one of the themes with the Anchor branding was we wanted it to be safe and give you a sense of security, and it needed to be serious. So we almost went a bank-like direction where, here's a clean symbol, here's a name, here's something that you can start to build trust in. This is what helps secure your account. On Unicove, on the other hand, we didn't need to be so serious and so fun. And so that's why we kind of just went out into the wild and we're what crazy fun thing can we do? And that's why we ended up with kind of the half unicorn, half mermaid thing, which is kind of funny because both of those are half something and half something else. but it was like an attempt to kind of inject a little bit of fun into it and not be so serious, because this application, like it doesn't have to be as serious. It doesn't have to be the application that you use. It is one of hopefully many applications that you can use with your more serious application. Like your password manager is not something that's fun. You don't see fun branding around a password manager, but you may log into a fun website with your password manager.
Sure.
So we were bored being so serious with Anchor. And we're like, let's have some fun. So that's why we have just the fun logo. The colors are a little bit more vibrant and fun. And we then really just kind of focused in on the user experience of it. I mean, really, if you look at Unicove today, it's pretty simple. Like, we do now offer the ability to create accounts on the site, but its primary function is to help you manage your tokens. It shows you your balance and it lets you send and receive them. Like, that is the number one thing that is done on that site. And like, we put a lot of care and attention into the user experience of how that went. And there's a lot that we still want to do with that. Like, for example, one of our original design goals with it was to have a contact system where you had, like, let's say you could add your exchange as a contact. And then it was part of, when you're going to send a token, you could just pick it from your list of contacts, type in an amount, and it would know how to perform that transfer. Or like, if I wanted to send you tokens, I could add you as a contact. And there was this trustless system that would be kind of this interplay between Anchor and Unicove, where your contacts could exist in both. That system never got fully fleshed out, but it's still something we'd like to do with it. But just this brand and this ease and this fun was kind of the trajectory with it. And since then, since we've added account creation, it's really turned into this thing where we're just trying to make it an onboarding tool now. Mm-hmm. If somebody wants to come to EOS or Wax or Telos or any of the networks that is supported here, the ultimate goal with Unicove is to be able to send them there and be like, hey, did you want an account? Did you want to use these networks? Did you want to do a thing? You can start here. This is a good starting place for that activity. And then we can lead you into Anchor when you're getting more serious. Mm-hmm. That full vision isn't realized at this point. Right now, it's pretty much just the web wallet, but the potential is still there, and it's still something we talk about and think about a lot.
Sure. And I like the differentiation between Unicove and Anchor as almost the bank versus the fun that you do with what you do at the bank. Not many doors are, or locks on doors are not exactly the most attractive thing on a house, or anything that you're locking for that matter. But once you get through that lock and you do the serious stuff, then yeah, all the fun stuff's inside. But the thing that I really enjoy about Unicove is that it's as understated as simple UI can be, I guess. It's having the ability to do as much as you can on Unicove with it feeling very unassuming. It doesn't feel complicated or complex. You're not presented with 13 menus to get to what you want. It's all right there. If you want to send and receive, you click send and receive. You need resources, you click resources. It's the simplicity of it, along with the kind of fun UI elements. It just makes it a nice place to be. And that sounds like such a strange thing on a website. You think of like, if you're going to go to a hotel or you're going to go to a vacation spot, you want the place that you're staying to be someplace that you want to be, someplace that you want to spend your time. And even if that's an office, if it's your desk or whatever, where you're spending your time, you want to be someplace enjoyable. And so it's odd to attribute that kind of feeling to a website or an application, but it does feel that way. It's not an over encumbered kind of solution. It's very simple and light, but I think there's dare I say, elegance to that, let alone the ability to walk that tightrope.
Yeah, it is not the drawer in the kitchen that you open up that has thousands of tools that you need to dig through to find the one you want. It's like the very nice chef's knife that you have sitting on the counter in its little holder that is
Mm-hmm.
for that one purpose. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the thing that you use the most and you want it to function really well. So like you take really good care of that and you don't just throw it in the drawer with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's that very common purpose built thing. So, and we're like, if you get into the nitty gritty of the site, you'll notice things like we have it set up so you can do transfers without ever clicking your mouse if you want. Like those that are in the kind of accounting side of things or the financial industries, like they're used to just doing numbers and like quickly moving through with key presses and things like that. So we've taken the like time to actually make that possible within this interface. It automatically focuses you on the areas that need your attention while only presenting you one piece of information at a time, except at the end when you're reviewing all of the information and confirming. There was a lot of thought that went into like, how do we take all the best that we've learned from the kind of the traditional financial industry and kind of apply it to token transfers for sending and receiving and get all the other complexities out of the way. We're hoping to be able to do that with other things like, account history. Like you really should be able to go in and look at the transactions you've done over the last year that
Sure.
are relevant to the token, to kind of the system itself. It might not track if you have like some crazy banana coin or like a collection of NFTs, like those aren't standardized things in the network, but it should be able to do that for the native token itself, the kind of the root of the blockchain, the thing that powers everything else. So there's a lot of room to grow in that, but really it's to be your portal into the basics of the blockchain, and then hopefully like a launch board into other things that you can do. Like it may not do everything fun, it'll do everything elegantly, and then it'll help you find other fun things to do.
It's funny that you mentioned the whole thing about people in the financial industry being able to jump between fields quickly. It's a big development thing as well, where there are a lot of people who want to stay on their keyboard as much as humanly possible, whether it's developers or I've even met quite a few digital artists that will stick everything on shortcut keys and be able to and program functions into ridiculously overly complicated keyboards in order to keep their hands on the keyboards as much as humanly possible. Obviously, that's also a big dev thing as well. So having that kind of ability is often, it's one of those overlooked things that I really appreciate that we have that attention to detail for. I have a game that I play regularly, and it is annoying that when I click to add a player to the game, it doesn't automatically move my cursor over to the text box. So those little tiny things are so often overlooked for more flashier things on websites, but I think that's kind of our dedication to UI showing and being, regarding that as something that is so important to us.
Yeah.
It's such a big thing.
We're trying to like boil this kind of stuff down to the fundamentals, and you can see that in the shift in direction that Anchor has gone as well. It's like it's going to do one thing really well, and it might have some other things in the wings that help with that one thing. And the Anchor Authenticator, the mobile versions you see today are kind of the evolution of what Anchor Desktop was with that same mentality. And Unicove really plays a big part in that. Unicove being like, we want you to manage your account essentially here. This is your homepage for the blockchain itself, not all the other things you can do with it, but for the core thing. It's trying to do one thing and do it well. And that one thing is manage your account and create your account.
So Unicove offers quite a few different things for users. We can handle transfers. We can also handle account creation. What are some other things that Unicove can do for users?
One of kind of the missing pieces that we've been working on for a while now is, to begin with, for a fresh user, you can pay to create an account, and we've integrated traditional payment processors so that way you can use Apple Pay or credit card or whatever to get the account created, because there's a cost associated with that. and then you can manage it. But like, what do you manage if you don't have any tokens? One of the kind of the missing pieces there was the like how you get tokens. And that's a really big part of onboarding brand new users. And with kind of this seeking to be a portal and seeking to onboard users, that was a problem we started trying to figure out maybe in the summer or something like that. So now we're introducing a new feature where you can actually buy tokens from within inside the app through the partners that we're integrating into the app. The first one being Banksa, which the new version of Unicove is going to have a new sidebar item that just says get tokens. And you can click that, and then you can use Banksa directly within Unicove to purchase tokens directly within. They will go to your account. Banksa knows who you are because Unicove is telling them. It's telling them your account name specifically. We don't know anything else about you, but it'll know that like, hey, I logged into Unicove with a Wax account. I want to buy Wax tokens, and here's my account name. So you go through their processes, which include some KYC, payment information, and all of that kind of stuff. And then you can just say, I want $100 worth of Wax tokens to go buy this cool, shiny new thing, or to play this game, or to do whatever it is you want to do with those Wax tokens. It'll also be available for EOS. So those are the two networks that Banksa supports at this time. Hopefully that will expand over time as the Antelope community grows. And then that'll really let Unicove be this place where not only can you buy an account to get started and you can manage that account, but you can also top it up with tokens whenever you need them.
So for everybody playing along at home, so a little bit about Banksa. Banksa is a third-party provider. They're known for providing an easy way to buy and sell crypto. They operate globally, and they have over 100 million users through different exchanges, wallets, and apps. They're one of the more popular third-party providers out there, and we're happy to be working with them. All right, so if you can buy and use coins in Unicove, does that mean it also stores our coins? And most importantly, are they actually safe there?
Yeah, I mean, with the way that Unicove works, it's just an interface to your account on the blockchain. And with the way it exists right now, only working with Anchor, all of your keys and all of your security still falls back to Anchor. So while you're using the Unicove site and like, let's say you bought some EOS tokens, like those tokens are going to your account, which is still secured by Anchor. It's not like those tokens actually sit in some centralized app of some kind, or they are associated to Unicove in any way. They are secured by Anchor. So you're as safe as your Anchor is as safe as these new tokens are.
Well, as safe as pretty much putting anything else on your account. So if you're to get an NFT from Atomic Hub, it's still going directly to your account. It's one of the unique things. You mentioned it earlier about how, as far as the Unicove side is concerned, the only thing that gets given is your account name because you logged in with it. And that's literally the only piece of personal information that we provide. So it's literally as yes, there is an extensive KYC process, but that's going to be with anybody these days. So, but again, we don't get any of that information. It doesn't even touch our system at all. So, again, that's a big priority for us, is making sure that we don't keep your information. We don't want it. We don't. It's not that your information isn't good. I'm sure it's great information. We're just not interested in it.
Yeah, that's for being as small of a team as we are. That's a realm we don't want to wander into, is having to hold and secure your information on something that we run. We give you Anchor. Anchor is on your device only. We don't ever see what you're doing with Anchor. There's not even any analytics in Anchor. It's running on your device, and your device just runs that software to control this stuff. And when you log into Unicove, the only thing Anchor is telling Unicove is your account name and how to talk to your wallet. So it's like everything you see throughout the Banksa process, that is all on Banksa's side. So like we don't control that part of the app. We work with them to integrate that into Unicove. And we'll continue to work with them. We'll kind of learn what our users like and dislike and see what feedback we can help provide to banks that help improve their experience as well. It is going to be a good relationship. Hopefully we can expand this in the future. We have some ideas of different ways that we might be able to work together to help even further improve the user experience using Unicove. But this was really the first step in getting an on-ramp in place. So that way, again, you're using Unicove. We want a brand new user that's coming to the ecosystem to be able to use this thing. They can create their account there, they can then manage that account, and then they can top it up, all in just one central place that really is just a DApp. Like, other people could replicate this as well and do a better job if they put the time and effort into it, just to provide that competition, to provide that innovation, to provide that additional redundancy in the ecosystem. So hopefully with Unicove being a completely open source app and us doing this work, it'll kind of highlight how this could be done, and just kind of provide lots of little benefits to the ecosystem that, may not be immediately noticeable by the average user.
Well, I think it goes back to the whole idea of us dog fooding our own stuff. Unicove was essentially a test bed for how these interactions would work on a site. And like you said, it just proves out that this works. And if somebody wanted to replicate it, it's all right there for them to take a look at. So if you don't like something about Unicove, cool, go make it and make it better, or tell us and or make stuff for Unicove and maybe we can integrate it. So, I mean, it's that kind of collaborative process. But again, at the end of the day, it's the user's portal, right? So, if there's a feature that somebody wants, then if it's a widely wanted feature, then it's something that we could take a look at. But again, being open source, people are free to collaborate on this.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is. It's a test bed in so many different ways. This is kind of one of them, but even looking at Wharf, which we haven't talked a whole lot about in the podcast, but Unicove is going to be a test bed for Wharf in the future as well. It's going to be another way that we dog food our own products to build a new product. It's this long chain of mixed flavored dog foods. It's, Anchor is something we built, and then we built Unicove to dog food Anchor, and now we're building Wharf, and we're going to dog food Wharf with inside Unicove to help prove that all of these tools work together in this really easy to use and cohesive ecosystem of tooling. So that way other people can do the same thing, which will lead towards easier development and more adoption of these technologies. It's painful sometimes because, I touched on this earlier. You look at Unicove and you're like, there's nothing here. There's so little that you can actually do with it, but it's because the foundation of all of it that's shared between all of these projects is what we're primarily focused on. Yeah. It is setting that foundation so that way something like Unicove and something like Anchor can actually achieve a greater adoption than we see today. It can be the prototype for what could be in the future.
So, Aaron, what do you see in the future for Unicove? Are users going to be able to do more than what is available now?
Yeah, we have quite a backlog of things that we'd like to add to the site. Timing is always an issue just because we have so many things cooking. I kind of touched on a few of them earlier, like the account history. You should really be able to see what your account has done in a really digestible manner. Right now we have block explorers, which is, that's where we direct everybody these days. Go look up your account on a block explorer and look through the history. It's all the block explorers are very, very kind of technical to the average user. That's a lot of the feedback we get. It's not as easy as looking at your bank statement or something like that. So we want to kind of take a radically different approach to account history in Unicove and make it more human readable. Remove a lot of the scary technical stuff and actually just make it so that it is something the average new user is going to understand. That'll actually be useful for them. We'd like to be able to add in other systems for governance, for voting, for earning on networks that have kind of earning protocols. We have designs for a lot of these already done. It's just the implementation itself we haven't had the time to get around to. The contact system, like I mentioned earlier, has been something that I personally am really passionate about. I always if I'm using Unicove and I'm doing a transfer, I triple check the account name as I'm entering it. And then I go through and I enter the amount in the memo. And then on the confirm screen, I look at the account name again, and quite often the memo, and letter by letter, make sure it's the right thing and something didn't get screwed up. Because, this is crypto. And if you send to the wrong place, there's a chance you might not get it back. So Contact solves that. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about it. And give you that chance to just do that thorough check once and then trust that it is it's the same thing each time and you don't have to constantly be checking it over. So there's a lot, and I don't know what's coming next, to be honest, but one of those things.
It's funny because when you mentioned this earlier and about block explorers and how block explorers kind of take that Swiss Army knife approach and try to handle everything, but they also bombard you with everything. So if I wanted to go look up my account, let's say on blocks, for instance, there is a search field that I can put something into, and if I manage to find that, then then I'm presented with multiple pages of text that talk about everything and anything related to my account. I was just doing this yesterday when I was going through for my invoices and whatnot, and trying to just get to what my account has done from a very, I'm trying to see all of my deposits from a particular user or contract in this case or whatever. And it's difficult. Granted, I have a little bit of experience with it, so it's not that bad, but for an average user, it's word salad. There's just a lot of data and a lot of information there. And I think that simplicity in UI design really, really shines at something like this, where we understand that having all those capabilities are great. And if you ask most people, they'll have a Swiss Army knife and they've only used the knife. So the can opener and the, all the other stuff, maybe if you have a Gerber, use a pliers or Leatherman or something like that, but you're still only using those primary tools. So for those of us that aren't using every single tool in the box, it's a lot easier and a lot more comforting, I would say, and more puts me more at ease to deal with a little bit less information. It just makes anything to make this whole process in any, on any blockchain, anything to make the process simpler and easier is always a welcome thing, and it will absolutely draw new users every time.
I'm always afraid when I'm giving a user support, somebody's hey, this isn't working. And I'm okay, how do I help them figure out the problem? Mm-hmm. And the minute part of the solution is, I need you to go to a block explorer and look this up on your account, I'm terrified that I'm going to drive this user away because I know that they're already confused or frustrated with something that should be so simple. And now I'm throwing them kind of into the deep end. And I'm just hey, go to this database viewer thing that shows all this random numbers and letters that are going to scare you. And we really need a place that is a little bit more user friendly, and that again kind of leans into the whole mission of Unicove as a product. It is let's find the easiest ways to do these things and just get rid of all the extra tools, or at least hide them a little bit, and then give them the ones that they need the most. Make that judgment call as a development team as to what we think people need, and then listen to feedback and adjust as appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking on the blocks thing, I whenever I'm helping users with support cases, it is, I almost will I try to avoid just saying, oh yeah, go to blocks.io or go to, eosx.io and, enter in your account. Usually it's okay. If this is your account name, then here, let me give you a link exactly where you need to go. And that sometimes makes things a little bit easier, but usually doing support in this space is like trying to help somebody with an arm tied behind your back, especially on something like Anchor, where the whole point of everything is to not have your data and not be able to provide that to people, but also not knowing.
Yeah. And us not having to ask.
Yeah. We all, and that's the thing, is like, you don't want to ask because you only want to ask for exactly the right amount of data that you need. And anything beyond that, even though it's helpful, you're compromising now. So it's a tricky wicket for sure to hit through.
Because you don't know if the person you're talking to has like $10 or $1 million. And it's like, well, if they're the person.
Yeah, let alone if they're the actual person that has the account.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be somebody that's pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. While we're talking about new users, if a new user wanted to start using Unicove, what would they need to do?
Currently, you can actually get started on Unicove if you're logged out. There's a create account process that lets you pick the network you want. I think we support 4 networks at this point: EOS, Wax, Telos, and Proton. Mm-hmm. And it will walk through the process of purchasing an account we use Stripe for that, so it accepts credit cards. And it's either 99 cents or $1.99. Like, those are kind of the 2 payment tiers that we can actually do credit card payments with. We can't get smaller than that. And then you can pay for an account to be created on those networks that then will lead you through the process to get started in Anchor. Currently, that's the only flow we have. It would be nice if we didn't, require the usage of Anchor and you could use other wallets for that. But just for the sake of dog fooding our own products, again, that's the flow we use. So that's how you actually get an account. And then once you're set up in Anchor, you can just come back to Unicove and click login. And then you will either scan a QR code or click a button and you are logged in. You probably at that point will have no tokens, which really justifies why we've explored and gone through and come up with this partnership, is because that is a really crucial part into it. Because otherwise we're just dropping new users into an interface where they don't have anything and can't do anything. Yeah. Like, we kind of solved step 1 of the onboarding process, and step 2 was kind of in limbo. So now there's an opportunity to be like, oh, now I can spend $50 and get some tokens and actually then do things with them. You can go off to other websites and use Anchor to log into that.
Yeah.
And then you get started on your adventure through crazy crypto land and do whatever it is that sparks your interest.
Yeah. It's an often requested feature. And I think it really does help that adoption rate. It's something that we'll get questions from users about all the time. And it's something I'm really, really stoked that we're actually going to be able to offer for people. It is kind of that missing link.
It is. And the level of difficulty using it's going to vary depending on wherever the user lives, because each country is going to have different requirements to be able to use a service like this. And hopefully we trend in the direction of becoming easier and easier to do that thing. Like, if you are a user that just wants to spend like $50 to buy a handful of NFTs for fun or to support a charity or whatever it may be, I think the barrier of entry should be pretty low. Whether it is based on where you live, that's not up to us. It's not up to banks. It's up to local lawmakers effectively and the regulations that they impose. But being able to at least provide that path in Unicove is one thing we can do. And so that's kind of why we've chosen to work with Banksa. And hopefully that relationship grows into us being able to offer other things in that manner. So this is hopefully just the start of both Unicove and this partnership and the improvement in onboarding. It's one big step in onboarding, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's been a big focus for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today's episode. As always, please feel free to support Greymass. You can do so by going on over to GitHub sponsors. You can also vote for the Greymass proxy to support us there, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions or suggestions at hello@greymass.com. If you have any questions or issues with Anchor or Unicove for that matter, or Banksa for that matter, please let us know by emailing us at support@greymass.com or by visiting our support portal at support.greymass.com. Just a real quick reminder that Greymass's partnership with Banksa will launch with a 0% gateway fee promotion for new users for the first 2 weeks. So that means that users who wish to participate and purchase tokens with a credit card will not have to pay any card fees. Well,
Yep.
Aaron, as always, thank you for joining us this week.
Of course.
And we'll hope to have a new episode out soon. And until then, thanks for listening to Coffee with Greymass, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. Thank you much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Woo.
Okay. Yeah,
we'll just leave all of this in. This is the B-roll.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
For sure.